Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Coffee with Convery, a place where we dive into the journeys, insights, and innovations shaping the futures of business, leadership, and community. Today, we're spotlighting an incredible student organization making waves at the Schulich School of Business called the Schulich Pride Alliance. Since its founding in 1994, Schulich Pride Alliance has been a beacon of inclusivity, fostering welcome spaces for 2S LGBTQ+ students, not just to connect, but to learn and to thrive. Through community building, education, professional development, and of course, mentorship, they are creating lasting impact both within Schulich and beyond. Joining me today are two remarkable student leaders who are driving this mission forward. Eric Martins, who is the president of Schulich Pride Alliance, and Linh Vo, who is the VP of Corporate Relations. Both have played instrumental roles in expanding the club's reach, strengthening corporate partnerships, and advocating for meaningful diversity, equity, and inclusion in business. We'll explore their leadership journeys, the evolution of the Schulich Pride Alliance, and what it means to create truly inclusive spaces for students and the future leaders. Eric and Lynn, welcome to the podcast.
Hey.
Thank you here.
Hello.
Hello. So let's start to kick it off with a few rapid fire questions. First, we'll start out with is maybe Eric, we'll start with you. What is your superpower?
Oh, okay. I is this okay? I know it's supposed to be rapid fire, but let me throw back a question. Is this could I have any superpower or is this an actual superpower?
An actual superpower.
Okay. I would say I can change like a chameleon. I am very good with adapting to different situations.
That's a great superpower. Lynn, how about you?
Um, so I never knew this was kind of like my superpower because I thought it was a normal thing. But when I talked to everyone, that I have talked to, they were like, "Oh, like no one does that." But I could fall asleep basically anywhere. Like I could, and it makes me very productive because when I'm on the train, I have nothing to do. I could just take a power nap. But then, even on a crowded train, when I don't have a seat, I could still stand and nap. So I guess that works in my favor because I can be very productive throughout the day.
I love that. That is a cool superpower. That is a cool one. So both of you are in school. Curious, what's your favorite subject? So maybe Lynn, start with you.
Um, well, like I have a lot of favorite
Okay.
courses, but I would say like they're all very, very like technical. I just like math, so like anything that kind of like related to numbers, like I like them all.
Cool. Good. Awesome. Math. Eric, how about you?
Um, I'm pretty big on anything with marketing, except
Marketing.
for international marketing. I can't stand that class, but it's okay.
Tell us how you really feel. That's awesome. I like it. Thank you. Very first job. We all start somewhere. Where did you both start? Like, what was the first job you did? Eric.
I started at the children's place.
Ah, okay. What did you do there?
I was doing a co-op placement for high school,
Oh,
and
nice.
then I switched over to just an actual paid employee after
Very
that
cool.
work
Very
period.
cool. Lynn, how about you? What was one of the first jobs you've had?
So like I tutor when I was in high school. So like I feel like I've already been doing this for a while now, but it's like a pretty easy job to get started because there's always a demand. And so yeah, and like I just really like the like impact of what I created to other people. So that's why I really like it and I still do it
That's
to
awesome.
this
And giving
day.
back.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Good for you, helping out. So I don't think you're going to describe yourself as a napper, but if you had to describe yourself in one word, Lynn, starting with you, what would your word be?
Um, okay, that's hard because I could describe myself in like a lot of words.
I know
So picking
one's
one
tough.
word is pretty, but I will say like I'm a very curious person, like curiosity.
Yep,
Um, when I kind of like when I learn something, I always try to understand like why things are the way they are. I don't really take things for granted. And I feel like for math it's really important because like, a lot of the time, like math is when you got taught math, right? You kind of got taught it backwards, right?
Yep.
Like you were given information and then later than like 20 years down the line you realize how it works. So I think like it's really important to know like like the base foundation of how things work. And I always try to do that whenever I learn something new.
And that curiosity helps with that big time. So that's being curious is a good thing. It's a great skill to have. Eric, how about yourself? What if you had to describe yourself?
I am going to throw it right back to the first question with the superpower and go for versatile.
Okay,
I love to do
that's a good
so
word.
much at once.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good word. Okay, so we're gonna jump into this. I'm gonna do some bouncing around with both of you on the questions, but bear with me. I'll make sure I call you out for the questions. So let's start first with Eric. So Schulich is known for its rigorous business programs. I'm curious what drew you to business school and how has your experience shaped your personal and professional growth so far?
Okay, that's a big one. Um, Honestly, I there was never a plan to go into business up
Oh, good.
until grade 10. Um, I started off my entire childhood. I told my family I'm going to be an actor. I am getting out of Toronto. I'm moving to LA. That didn't work out. I'm still here. So then when I was in grade 11, I took an accounting class and realized, okay, Slay, I am actually good at this. Why not pursue it?
Yeah.
And then I chose Schulich because I was told it was one of the best, and I was like, okay, well, why not go to one of the best? Went to it, found out I hate accounting, and so switched over to marketing because that was a lot more fun. It hasn't shaped me too much so far. I think I still have my own personal values
Hmm.
outside of a business perspective, but it has allowed me to realize how much networking and knowing people really does help you in everyday life.
Amazing. Amazing opportunities there. Lynn, you have a strong background in analytics and mentorship. And what was your journey to Schulich like, and how did you develop your keen interest in math, business, and data?
Yeah, so I actually have a very similar story to Eric. Never
Okay.
really thought of going to a business school. Um, Up until grade 12, actually, when I was like making a decision for myself, like I always thought that I would. The thing here is when I was in high school, I feel like you were too young to really settle on like an idea of like, oh, like I'm actually gonna do this for the rest of my life.
Agree.
And like, yeah, so I wanted to be like really creative with what I do if I was to do it for the rest of my life, right? So I wanted to do like art, but then like, high school guidance, they kind of tell you that like, oh, like arts don't really make a lot of money. So you were like, okay, then, the second thing I like is I really like math. But then also I wasn't really confident in myself at that time. So I was like, what if like I'm not smart enough to do something that is like so difficult, right? So my mom is an accountant. So if anything, this is like the career path that I'm most familiar with. So at that time, when I faced like a lot of options, I decided to go for this one just because I didn't want to step out of my comfort zone. So that's why I chose Schulich. Um, and then as I took more courses, I realized that I am way better at like technical subjects. And I think that's like what Schulich taught me. I'm like horrible, like actually horrible at like marketing or like, you know, anything like that. Glad I didn't choose anything creative as my career path because I would end up hate it. Um, and then I mean I've always enjoyed doing math, so I use all of my electives towards taking statistics, and I wanted to blend my analytical skills with my business education. So around this time, like I was like tutoring at like a math center. So I tutor grade like elementary school to high school students. And then later I wanted to challenge myself by tutoring university level calculus courses. So my interest in data really took off when I took this data science techniques course at York University. And this course showed me how data can be used to solve real life problems. And then I became really fascinated with the power of data. Since then, like I've been actively developing my skills in data science to combining my passion for math and solving problems.
That's amazing. And it's an interesting here to how you process through all that. I want to ask you another kind of part two to this. Like, everyone as a student, it's a big transition from high school to university and college. I think sometimes we underestimate what that takes. And I'm curious, like, as yourself, what challenges have you faced in adapting to a student life being in university from your high school days?
I think so the thing here is when I was in high school, when I was in grade 12, a lot of people has already told me that like when you go into university, it's gonna be a completely different workload and it's gonna be way more pressure as like high school, right? So I kind of came in with that mindset already, and I'm
Okay.
glad that, a lot of people told me that. So I kind of already prepared for it. So I prepared to like, actually lock in the first semester, and like I feel like it definitely helps a lot with like kind of like, balancing the workload. I would also say that like the study techniques I have like I had to develop that throughout the time, right?
Okay.
So like definitely like when I was in first year, I didn't do that well compared to, like now. I definitely study way more efficiently than I was in first year. Yeah.
It's great. It's great knowledge to learn and share because some first year students that might be listening to this might be struggling with the very first things you did, right? And how do you get that studying down and how do you build your own confidence in how you approach the workload? So thank you for sharing that. And Eric, I want to ask you, I know you're obviously deeply involved in leadership and advocacy. What if on your personal experiences that fueled your passion for diversity, equity, inclusion, and how have they influenced the work that you do with the Schulich Pride Alliance?
Yeah. It's kind of funny that you would ask this question because originally in my first year, the current president at the time, Jemin Patel,
Hmm.
asked me to be a part of the Schulich Pride Alliance, and I flat out said no. I said there is nothing I think I can add to it. I don't really think it's necessary. I'm in university, I'm loving my life, I'm openly queer. There's nothing I see that there's a big problem with.
Hmm.
And then I continued on with the rest of the year, and I had a large group of straight girlfriends. And I would continue, I would go out with them, I would be with them. And then I realized there was always something a little bit off, whether that be I tell a story and they'd be shocked at the fact that that is something that goes on in the queer life. Or when we'd go out, I would be stopped by bouncers because my clothing didn't fit the straight man aesthetic. And I continued to realize that I was never really a thought process with the general straight population, which really made me want to dive into finding the queer people at Schulich and brought me into working with them in the second year. And as I continued, I realized there is such a colorful nature of queer people that whether that be hidden, open, or just being themselves, everyone has their own story but relates to each other in such a beautiful way. And it makes me just want to continue working and bringing that diversity out to everybody.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for sharing. I know that's a very personal approach to where you ended, where you are, and what you continue to do. But I think it's very important for people to hear how you process through that as well, because the value you bring to this conversation, and thank you for the vulnerability side too, because it really helps us all understand. Deep at the core, we all just want to be included, right? So
Mm.
thank you for that, Eric, and thank you, Lynn. So let's talk about Schulich Pride Alliance, because I know you both have a lot going on with this, looking for sponsors. This is a great way to get the word out. There'll be a lot of viewers, a lot of young people, maybe even at Schulich, don't even know that this group exists, which I know sometimes that seems maybe not there, but sometimes you might get some followers or listeners that want to join. So let's start. I wanted to get both your views on some of these questions. So I'll start, Eric, with you. So Schulich's Pride Alliance has been a key part of the business school's DE&I efforts since 1994. That's a while. How has the club evolved, and why do you think it is still important today for you, from your viewpoint? And I'll ask Lynn the same question.
I'm not gonna lie, when you first mentioned 1994 in the intro for this, I was like, are you lying to me? I
We
knew
didn't
that
even know it.
yeah, like we had an awareness that there was a club prior to the Schulich Pride Alliance,
Yep.
but in the past it was called the Schulich LGBT.
Okay. Yep.
Um, and so they have a bunch of merch, and we stole half of their like lanyards that they left in our basement.
Yep.
But other than that, there is no remnants of that club. There's an old social media page from, I want to say 5 years ago, but that is all they left. There's no history or talks or anything to
Wow.
find on them. So truly, the Schulich Pride Alliance has evolved so much in the past 4 years just alone because it really brought into the light what this club is and how it can be.
Absolutely.
We started with one conference 4 years ago. Now we are at one major one and two smaller ones. They change consistently each year. It's so consistent with how much it is involved.
Wow. That's incredible. That's incredible. And it's so needed today. Lynn, what's your view on like why it's still important and why you're involved and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I wanted to add on Eric's speech. So I would say that like before, so this is what Jimin told me. But the Schulich LGBT, I think they didn't really get a lot of people joining, which is like pretty sad because it's a business school. Not everyone is comfortable with
Mm.
being a part of a club that kind of like if you join this club, you gotta out yourself in a way.
Yep.
So I think that club died out after a while, and then Jimin really, thanks to him, like he really brought um the community back up, and so yeah, so like the first conference was like the last 4 years ago, and then we kept going and we tried to make Schulich Pride Alliance like stronger than ever. Um, I think that it is so important today because you know, a lot of people, including myself and Eric, sometimes it's really hard for us to find a community that
Hmm.
we can truly be ourselves and then share stories that people can relate to. It's like a very wonderful experience that, when you're like a little special, you don't really get that with everyone. So that's why I think it's especially when it's so small, it creates this tight-knit community where, everyone knows each other. And that's why I think it is so much needed in a business school where you could find like people that are like you.
Yeah. Congratulations to the two of you. Like 100% agree with everything you both said. And I think, it's you're right. When you join a club like this, it somewhat outs you, but at the same time it includes you. Right? So I think that's the beauty of what you're both doing and bringing to the table. And I'm curious now because it's been a long time since I've been a student. So, but from a student's point of view, what are the biggest challenges you're facing now as part of the 2S LGBTQ plus community? What do you see the students, what's top of mind? What's concerning them? What are they talking about? Sorry, I should have said Eric first.
Okay. Um, Currently, I'd say just like from my point of view, I don't know if everyone's feeling this way,
Yeah.
but I think the biggest challenge is how you appear will affect your growth abilities. I don't think there's any problems with getting the job. I don't think there'll be any problems with going higher just a little bit. But I think once we continue to go down the road, who is really in the top points of power? Not a lot of queer people.
Mhm.
And so my current biggest fear is will I ever be able to get a super high achievement because of how I present, how I speak, how I look? Will I be able to do international business because I can't go to some countries? Countries don't want to interact with me. There's so many barriers in excelling, and I fear that those barriers will stop me at a certain place in my career, and I'll just have to accept it if I want to continue being authentic.
Really interesting. Thank you for sharing that. And it makes me really think about the environments that we're creating and that we continue to create. And I know this is a tough, I think and believe that we all are powered to do what we can do. And, going through myself coming out as a younger person, like it was different then, and I continue to see it. But like, I think for you guys and for you, Eric, specifically, is you want to be who you are. And I think just getting people to understand and move forward and hopefully, change the world ahead. I really hope that's what happens. But thank you so much for sharing those concerns and ideas that you have because they're valid. They're yours, and anything you feel and looking at it is something that you're thinking about. So hopefully some of the listeners here, including not just other students, but other companies and organizations can take note of some of the things you're saying to make sure that there are spaces created for that inclusion. So
Mm.
thank you for that. Lynn, how about you? What do you think?
Yeah, so this is also from my personal perspective. But I feel like um one of the challenges that I face as a queer student in business school is the formality of the environment. So business school can feel very professional, that it's unclear when it's appropriate to share more about yourself beyond just the surface level conversations. There's often like tension between wanting to bring your full identity into the professional spaces and then worry about how it will be perceived. This can make it very difficult to, discuss about, identity because sometimes I just afraid that it wouldn't be welcome or it will create unnecessary friction. So joining SBA actually allowed me to find the community, the environment that I could truly be myself, where I knew that people that I'm surrounded by are similar to me. It created a sense of safety that I rarely feel outside of like other queer networking events. So I would say that SBA to me is more than just a club. It is a community that dedicate to creating a space where students can openly share their experience and navigate challenges of being queer in business together. And honestly, I've met so many great people from SVA that I'm so glad to call my best friends. And it is the club that I never knew I needed so much in first year. If Eric wasn't trying to bring me on to this club, I wouldn't have said yes either. So
That's
yeah.
great. Thank you so much for sharing that as well and your story. So let's talk about the Schulich Pride Alliance because I know you're getting ready. You got a big conference coming up. This is an opportunity to bring awareness to that as well to the community of folks that are listening to this podcast. So what do you like? Let's talk about it. What are some of the most exciting achievements? What's going on? Maybe highlight some of the things that you're working on and the conference and when it is and how to get involved. Like if someone wants to get involved or sponsor. I don't know, Eric, do you want to start with that one or
Sure.
sure?
Um, so so far the club's most exciting achievements has been one event. It was our authenticity event that happened in November of 2024. And it was a small little drag panel with some queer drag performers from Toronto. That was Dahlia Doll, JJ Kings, and Miss Renona. And so they came in and talked about what it's like being a full-time drag queen and also having a full-time job in the banking environment. Dahlia Doll and Miss Renona both work at a bank in Toronto, and they have to balance being authentically themselves in the workplace while also being authentic on the stage and how they can be outed at any moment just from performing at night and having to go and work the next day and how they balance that. It was a beautiful conference, and how they spoke about their work was so amazing. They shedded so much light on what they do in the queer culture of Toronto. In terms of what's next, I'm unsure when this will be put out, but we have an event on March 4th. So this may already be past that after, but it's our Eclipse event, which is all about intersectionality in the workplace. So that one will have business professionals coming in and talking about their experience about having different intersectionalities and how it's affected them in their life experience. But the one that we're most excited for is our Spectrum event, which is happening on June 7th. And it is a full day conference with a drag performance, some panels, some keynotes, some workshops, and a large networking portion with a bunch of different sponsors, all about being queer in business and the different ways you can go about it. Maybe I'll leave it to Lynn to go over different ways people can get involved.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Yeah, so for Spectrum, people can get involved by becoming our keynote or, speak at our panels. We also look for people to join us in the industry fair to connect with students that we bring in because these are, young queer talents that are really excited to kick off their careers in business and
Yep.
want to put what they've learned into practice. Um, and yeah, so it is an amazing event. We got a lot of engagement from students and they really like it. I personally, um, yeah, so we got over 100 delegates coming to Spectrum every year, and I personally really love it. I'm not being biased because it's an event that we hosted, but it is amazing. I would say I'm proudly to say that I think we are one of the biggest queer student-run organizations in Ontario.
Good for
So
you
yeah,
both. Good
it
for you
is a
both.
very exciting event. Yes.
Well, I want to commit something because I want to see where you are with the March 4th event. Is there still opportunities if someone wanted to get involved? I know it's the next week, but what I'll do is I'm thinking we should talk about releasing this as a special feature this Friday, highlighting the both of you, the club, and everything as a special feature. And within that promotion of this podcast, I want to also put in LinkedIn and other areas ways to get in touch if you're still looking for sponsors or anything. So share what how some of the if there is those opportunities, and then we can
Hmm.
also highlight that for Friday, which is only 2 days away.
Yeah. In terms of if there's still a chance to get involved, there is. We have a keynote so far. However,
Okay.
the event is made up of a keynote, panel, and networking portion. The networking is more so just to let the students ask any questions afterwards. But the panel right now, we have two more spots open if anyone is interested in getting onto the panel.
Okay.
And it is a completely free to join event right now because we have the two spots open and it's super last minute. Anyone is available to be on it. Just gotta let us know.
Right.
If you did want to, our email is schulichlgbt@gmail.com.
Amazing. Amazing. And I'm gonna pump this volume up on Friday with the hopes that some of my queer colleagues and others will hear it and maybe be a part of that for the 4th, which I'm excited for you both. So thank you for sharing that. I just want to say maybe there's a lot of really great insights and vulnerability you shared on this podcast. I want to thank you both. Like I think this is not always an easy thing to do, but I think when more people talk, more people bring light to the situation and the opportunities for others who might not be in that position right now where they're feeling that they can be their true selves. Like these are the opportunities for them to hear from people and others. So is there anything last minute or ideas that you want to share with the audience that might before we wrap that you want to share? Is there anything I didn't ask you that you wanted to bring out? I'll leave you up to decide if you have something there.
Lynn, would you like to say anything?
Any advice?
I think I pretty much
You did
say
it?
anything that I
That's
need to
good.
say.
No, that's good. I
Yes.
just always give an opportunity because you never know
Mm.
if something came to mind as we were talking. So no problem, Lynn. That's totally cool. Eric?
In terms of like a one piece of advice, I would say be that vulnerable person. No one will ever know your story if you don't say it. So let it out, say whatever you want. If it backfires, but most times it won't. So just be open.
I love
Oh,
that.
wait.
Oh
Sorry. Are
no,
we
Lynn's got
talking
one
about
now. Yeah.
wait, sorry. Are we Oh, because I thought like do you have anything else to add? But oh, like I didn't know that we're giving advice. Because of
Yeah, yeah,
course,
you
like
can give
I have
advice.
advice.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Mike's yours.
Um, yes, but I would say my advice to like students, especially queer students, is that, you gotta get out there. Because like I know sometimes it can be very lonely when you don't know other people who share the same experience as you. And that could have been me if I didn't get involved with SBA, and from SBA I get to get involved with like a larger network of like Toronto queer organization as well. So and then from these experience, I get to meet a lot of great people who have been like great mentors to me. So without, putting yourself out there, you kind of miss like this huge opportunity for personal development and professional development as well. So yeah, that's my one piece of advice.
You did have something to share.
I
Well,
did.
thank you both. Thank you both. It's been a pleasure catching up with you today, and I'm so proud of what you're doing at Schulich with the Pride Alliance. And just thank you for being the individuals you are, and thank you so much for being on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
No problem at
Yeah,
all.
thank
Thank
you
you so
so
much
much
for
for
having
having
us.
us.
Awesome, awesome. So, for our listeners, if you enjoyed today's podcast, please share it with your network. You can find us at coffeewithconvery.com or on your favorite podcast channel. Also, we are on Instagram, so if you're looking for any updates or more inspiring content, you can find us there as well. And don't forget, when you hear this podcast, if you have an opportunity to share back and you want to reach out to this team about their upcoming March 4th event, please make sure you do. And remember, this is Coffee with Convery, where we show you that success isn't always about climbing the corporate ladder. Sometimes it's about building your own jungle gym. Thanks to you both. Good to see you.
Hey,
Bye.
good to see you too. Bye bye.